Before we discuss the importance, let's talk about what telomeres are. I'll draw a simple chromosome like this with two sister chromatids. Here we have our centromere, and if I mark our telomeres, that would look something like this. We find our telomere on the end of the chromosome. Just like this. These are the telomeres that are found on a typical chromosome. Let's drag this diagram all the way to the left so that we have a basis of what telomeres are, and I will handwrite the points that I want you to know about telomeres. Now, how exactly would we describe telomeres? Very shortly, we can say something like this. Instead of saying they are just at the end of chromosomes, we have to say telomeres are repetitive sequences. Don't think of that too much for now. That do not contain genes. What does that mean? For example, if you take this telomere, you might have this repeat consistently. CAG repeat, CAG repeat, something like this. This is what you mean by repetitive nucleotide sequences. Repetitive nucleotide bases, that's what I mean. And they don't code for anything. So we call them non-coding genes, non-coding DNA, not non-coding genes. Don't use the term non-coding genes yet. I'll make that clear under nucleic acids in the next chapter. Just say that those parts do not contain any genes. Genes are coding parts, no? Then, moving on to the second point, why is the pen too large? They have a function. Even though being repetitive, and even if they are non-coding, they do give. Why am I missing words right now? They do have, or they do provide, a viable function to the biological organism. Their function is to ensure that the ends of DNA are included during replication. Now, if that makes no sense, you can get a much better scope of this in the next chapter, but I will lightly touch up on what I am talking about. Now, if I elaborate this, we're going to have to talk about a specific enzyme which you're not going to be introduced to yet in this particular course, because the first instance where that enzyme is going to occur would be the next chapter. But that's okay, I'll tell you all of this. The DNA polymerase enzyme, that's our enzyme. The DNA polymerase enzyme can only fit at each end. So at each end of the DNA template, this would mean every single time we're trying to replicate a strand of DNA, a couple of nucleotides will be excluded. Can this happen? Now, I'm not going to go into too much detail because we will be going into more detail in the next chapter. For now, I'll just brush up on what telomeres are and what functions they provide. Now, if you don't get 5.1 as a whole, that's fine. Go on to nucleic acids and protein synthesis, even DNA replication, and then come back to this. You will understand much better. You won't even have to come back to this. You'll get it from that perspective. But still, I have to include this part. So few nucleotides are excluded each division. Okay? Therefore, these telomeres provide almost something like a buffer. Provides buffer nucleotides. That's why they are repeats. If these buffer nucleotides, these repeated nucleotides are lost, that's not a problem. We have enough of them. We have enough of them. When the chromosome forms again, there's another special enzyme known as telomerase. The enzyme telomerase adds additional bases at each end. The enzyme at each end. So to form telomeres, we need this special enzyme known as telomerase. Yeah. This is not really in the syllabus, but I'll give you a fun fact. Now, you might have seen people who are around 30 to 35 to 40 years of age, biological age, but they don't look so. They don't look so. They look very young. Here's the thing about telomeres. If you have longer telomeres, that would mean that you are younger. Okay. Not every time, not statistically, not logically, but if you just assess a patient's DNA for the length of their telomeres, the longer they are, the younger you are. Why? Because when you're small, you're going to have a lot of repeats, like a lot of repeats. With time, with age, these are going to cut down because they're replicating. A small part is lost initial replication, then another small part is lost in the next replication, and subsequently another part is going to be lost. So lost. Telomeres become shorter. So as you age, telomeres become shorter. It's a little fun fact about telomeres. There's not much to telomeres. That's the only thing you need to know. These are the only points that you have to be aware of when it comes to telomeres.